something else in just 30 minutes, but if I could kindly ask you to just take the conversation outside the room or sit down and not talk. Sometimes if I stop speaking, then other people realize something's gone wrong. So thank you. Thank you very, very much for taking your seats. And with that, I would like to invite to the stage Shirin Wheeler and her guests, President Calviño and Minister of Finance for Luxembourg, Gilles Roth.
Thank you.
Of course.
Hello, and thank you very much, Lisa, for that. And hello, President Calviño, Minister Roth. Lovely to see you all here. And this is the last session of the day, but I must say it's one of the most important. We have, I guess it can't have failed to miss your attention that the issue of gender equality, women's entrepreneurship, has been pretty high up on the agenda during this forum. We are approaching International Women's Day, and that is obviously why we're here for the moment. But not only that, also because gender equality, women's entrepreneurship is absolutely central to the discussions that we've been having here at the forum about competitiveness and sustainability. And to use the phrase of the Executive Vice President Teresa Ribera earlier today, wealth that lasts. I thought that was a very nice way. We talk about sustainability a lot, and I'm not sure whether any of us really know what it means, but that was a pretty good stab at it. So I'm delighted to invite up on the stage now with me President Nadia Calviño. You know her, you've seen her a few times today, President of the EIB group, and also Minister Gilles Roth, Minister of Finance in Luxembourg, hosting us here in Luxembourg with wonderful weather. So thank you for the weather. We're talking about scaling solutions towards inclusion and economic growth. We were talking earlier about words and the importance of words, and inclusion seems to have become almost a dirty one in some quarters. Not just the word, though, but the whole mission. And I wonder whether, maybe I can start with you, President, I wonder whether we can still take for granted that public institutions are going to keep the mission of gender equality up there on their sort of top mission list.
Well, thank you very much, Shirin, and indeed the last session of the day, but a very important matter, because it does not only affect 50% of our societies, but 100% of our societies. We are talking about how gender equality is not only the right, but also the smart thing to do, and the business case is very strong. And so public institutions, we should absolutely support this objective, because it brings to better decisions, more profitable institutions, decisions and institutions that think with a long-term perspective that you're referring to, wealth that lasts. And, you know, a study has estimated that by integrating the point of view of women, there is a 700 billion business out there that companies should be pursuing. So the numbers speak for themselves, I think, to confirm that the issue of gender equality and having better societies is the right way forward.
Minister, the finance ministry in Luxembourg is really rather exceptional in the way that you've put gender equality up there. You've got the Gender Finance Task Force, you've got the Charter as well. Tell us a bit about those and why you decided that these were important things to do.
Let's say 25% of the GDP of Luxembourg comes from our financial and banking sector. That's a very huge amount. And we have gender finance in our coalition agreement, in our governmental program. Why? Because I see, for the time being, I see we cannot grant anything. But we have to stick to midterm and also long-term perspective. And there, gender finance, of course, has its place. And we believe that gender finance and gender equality is something which is important. Why? Because it is not a cost, it is an invest. And if you listen and also have a look to the figures, there is a study which has been issued by the World Bank. And there they outline that gender, or closing the gap in gender, closing the gap, the gender gap in employment, and closing the gender gap also in entrepreneurship, that will boost the performance of these companies. And that was the reason behind why we have set up this chapter for women financing in Luxembourg. And it was set up by 79 signatories of the most important financial institutions here in Luxembourg.
Including the EIB.
Including the EIB. It covers 50% of the workforce in Luxembourg, and we have 50% of women who work at the financial center in Luxembourg. But one problem is that in leading positions, this goes down to 30%. And in order to close this gap, we put the effort in order to boost women in finance and also finance for women, and that is part of the action plan we have set up last year. And this action plan is now to be implemented by 7 working groups with 11 CEOs from Luxembourg-based banks, and there are more than 60 senior officials which work all in this action plan. And this action plan, of course, focus on education, it focus on capital, which should be moved to, let's say, women-led startups and companies and entrepreneurs. And, of course, which is the most important thing, is also that we help by mentoring and also by accompanying the development of these women-led companies.
Can I here say, I was thinking it's not just a matter of words, it's a matter of money. And I think Luxembourg is getting it right by trying to position itself as a pioneer in this area. And just in the course of yesterday and today in the forum, we have signed and conducted 2 events which show that we are walking the talk and that it makes sense. Only yesterday we signed the groundbreaking, the first agreement with a bank, a Spanish bank, that is financing self-employed workers and SMEs in the area of pharmacies and also in the area of engineering, with a dedicated program to support pharmacies led by women. And we have signed an agreement. This is the first of our gender lab. And, you know, I've never heard of banks that were not profit-driven. So I think that the fact that there's a private bank that actually sees that there's a business case here is quite telling. And secondly, we rang the bell here together with the Luxembourg Stock Exchange because the EIB, pioneering green bonds and sustainability bonds, we're now enlarging the scope of our investments to gender equality. And we rang the bell here with Julie Becker from the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, which is also showing that there is a business case, that there is an opportunity. And I think that we have a shared interest in showing that Luxembourg, that Europe is a women-friendly environment. Also, maybe we can attract talent from other parts of the world.
Who knows?
Yes, but if I could react to what Nadia just said. Of course, we have in Luxembourg, yes, we have the skills in Luxembourg. We have highly skilled professionals working at our banking and finance center. We have also the tools. we have a well-developed Luxembourg Stock Exchange. It works in the field of sustainable finance. We are one of the global leaders in sustainable finance. And they listen also, the Luxembourg Stock Exchange listens bonds, gender bonds, or the bonds that are tagged as gender bonds. And we leverage also private capital. Why? By using also our fund industry, because funds can be labeled as being gender funds. And we have to add venture capital, which is also one of the recommendations done by the report of Draghi, but on a larger scale. So we have all the tools, and I come back to the figures I just mentioned in that study by the World Bank. If we close globally the gender gap in entrepreneurship, if we close the gender gap in employment, then we can increase the global GDP by around 20%. And the problem is that money which is moved towards, let's say, women-led startups is only of 3%. And this gap we have to fill, and that's also we would like to promote by all the tools we have. So we have a goal is closing the gap, and we have the tools which are the common tools we have at the finance place here in Luxembourg. So investment funds, and also the stock exchange, and I would like to add also venture capital.
Absolutely. And I guess just going back to that World Bank figure, I mean, I guess the point being, why is that? And it is partly, isn't it, that women entrepreneurs tend to pay back their loans, be very dynamic, often are very innovative. The EIB is doing a lot of investment in this field, isn't it, President Calviño, both in Europe and outside Europe. And I guess that is, it's not because it's a nice thing to do, as you said, it actually is a good investment.
Absolutely. We have been, I mean, women's empowerment and gender equality is ingrained in our DNA, is part of our projects we finance inside the Union, but even more so outside the EU. We have launched very interesting projects in Africa, which now we want to extend to Asia and Latin America too. And there are many examples which show that it is not only good from the perspective, from the financial perspective, it is also good from the security and stability perspective, because women's empowerment contributes to building stronger societies, more stable, more peaceful societies. So in today's world, I would argue that it is not only a matter of financial interest, it's a matter of prosperity, it's a matter of security and stability around the world.
And I guess that extends to health as well. I mean, we're talking about entrepreneurship, but we were meeting with the head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, earlier, where they're doing a lot of work on women's health as well. When you put women in the driving seat in terms of health decisions, you also can impact economies, I guess.
Absolutely. When we're talking about primary health, when we're talking about women's health, we're talking again about stronger economies, stronger societies. Just like there is a clear evidence showing that when it comes to climate awareness, women are more prone to take the right decisions in this regard, be it when they're at the board or leading organizations or at home. That is also why women being decision makers in home decisions, you know, consumption decisions, there's also a business case there for companies to be sensitive to this issue, because that will be a good tool to reach their clients.
Absolutely. And that brings us to, I guess, the point on leadership. And you did mention good results in Luxembourg, but less good results, I think, when it comes to the big managerial positions so far. What are you going to do about that? And why do you think diverse leadership actually matters, Minister?
Diverse leadership is of a high importance, because most of the studies, almost all, they outline that if you have a diverse and balanced, gender-balanced board of directors, that has the advantage you have a higher profitability, you have a better use of capital, and you have less clearer targets. And therefore, we boost also this through several actions, and we push through our 10-point action plan also women to become part of board of directors. And we appreciate quite a lot also the collaboration which is done in Luxembourg in several areas, but especially also in gender diversity with the EIB. It's a partnership, a long-standing partnership we have with the EIB. And of course, we can also use the tools in Luxembourg which are already in place. We have, for example, an international climate finance actor. And there we train managers to be focused on climate matters, but we can also extend the scope of this international climate finance accelerator to other fields, to social fields, but also to gender equality. And that's exactly what we would like to have in Luxembourg, using the tools, using the skills, and also using the expertise we have in Luxembourg, and in also to move this also to the field of gender equality.
We're talking about climate, we're talking about women, we're talking about leadership. I think I need to ask you a bit, President Calviño, about the Women's Climate Leaders Network that the EIB has launched and which met actually this morning. What is the thinking behind that, and how does that link to the idea that maybe if you have more diverse leadership, you can also deliver more effectively certain policy goals, be they health or climate?
Indeed, I mean, partnerships is one of the key words that we have been sharing throughout the whole forum. We have built strong partnerships also with the financial community here in Luxembourg. We have launched a mentoring program, for example, so that venture capital investors have more diverse management. So partnerships are very profitable. They lead to win-win solutions. And one of the partnerships that I think is bringing very good outcomes, and I'm very grateful to the teams in the EIB, and in particular Barbara Balke there and the teams that have been leading this network, is the Women Climate Leaders Partnership. We met earlier today, and I started the meeting, Minister, and I really want to share this with you. I was thinking, when we launched this, and last year when we were meeting together, I never thought that these 4 words, women, climate, leaders, partnership, would be revolutionary right now when we're talking about what's happening in other parts of the world, and how there is such a pushback to what, to you and to me seems obvious, which is we need to profit and use the talent of 100% of our societies. And the more diverse the decision-making process, the better the outcomes. And in the case of climate, since women have this special sensitivity, and companies which are led by women or where women are participating in the leadership have better scores on environmental, social, and governance indicators, we have every interest to share our experiences and to see how to use this leadership in a positive way for our societies. So I think that, collectively we really need to, somebody said today, push back the pushback, push back against the pushback, so that we make sure that we continue to lead in this positive direction, which I think is very beneficial to Europe as a whole. And it can be one of Europe's strengths going forward in this brave new world, which is in the making as we speak.
Thank you, President. I'm going to come back to you in a moment, Minister, with this idea of how we can push back against the pushback, maybe a parting thought on that. But I also want to maybe invite by video, she's not live with us, but Rania Al-Mashat, who is the Minister in Egypt for the economy and international cooperation. She sent us a video message. We asked her to reflect on the theme of International Women's Day, which is accelerating action, and what that means to her, but also what it means in Egypt. So here's her take.
I wish I was with you in person, and as today we are here to reflect on the theme of accelerating action, The question we're faced with is what type of action can drive the most meaningful impact? The answer lies in moving beyond awareness to transformative systemic change. We need action that creates pathways for women to thrive in every sphere of life, not just as a participant, but also as a leader, an innovator, and a change maker. In today's world, we can't afford to sideline half of the population's talent, innovation, and creativity. The most impactful action we can take is to ensure that women's potential is fully realized across every sector, in business, in technology, in education, and in policy making. The impact of this would be profound. Consider this. Research shows that by closing gender gaps, we can unlock trillions of dollars in economic value globally. By more than the numbers, what we stand to gain is a more resilient and inclusive future. In Egypt, we've embraced this principle across our national development framework. We've committed to gender-responsive policies that put women at the forefront of our efforts in sectors like education, health, entrepreneurship, and green growth. We know that empowering women strengthens families, communities, and economies, and that is how we build longer-term resilience. To accelerate meaningful action, we also need to focus on key pillars. First, institutional accountability. Gender equality must be a box, not just a box to check, but a lens through which institutions operate. This means holding organizations and governments accountable for real, measurable progress on inclusion. Second, creating enabling environments. It's not enough to promote gender equality in theory, but we must build environments where women can lead, where they are not constrained by outdated social norms, unequal pay, or barriers to access. This means structural reforms. Structural reforms that promote equal opportunities in the workforce, comprehensive legal protections, as well as better support for balancing family and career. Third, collaboration. No single government or entity can achieve these goals alone. We need to bridge the public and private sectors with strong partnerships and shared responsibility. When businesses, civil society, and governments come together, we see faster results. Fourth, invest in women's leadership. Women must not only be participants in development, but drivers of decisions. By implementing and investing in women's leadership, we can accelerate growth and resilience across economies. Studies consistently show that organizations with women in leadership are more inclusive and make better decisions. Fifth, investing in women's economic empowerment. The most powerful lever for change is economic inclusion. Women entrepreneurs, innovators, and workers must be supported with resources, access to finance, and opportunities that they need to thrive. This is how to scale solutions that benefit not only women, but entire economies. Sixth, leveraging technology for gender inclusion. Technology presents an opportunity to close the gender gap faster than ever before. By investing in digital literacy, skills, training, and infrastructure, we can empower women to lead in future industries like fintech, renewable energy, and AI. The digital economy can be a great equalizer if women are given the tools and platforms to thrive. As we look ahead, I urge us to think bigger. We should not just ask what can be done for women, but we need to ask how women can shape and lead the future.
Very nice, very good. A manifesto, I think, pretty much. Let's stay with that thought right now, which is, I think, the idea of how we can enable women to shape the future. What can we do? Minister, what do you think? You told us a little bit about the task force, about the charter. Can you take some of those ideas to the next meeting of finance ministers in the EU and say, come on, guys. I mean, I know they're not all guys, but a lot of them are. Let's move here, but seriously, this is core to our competitiveness. And the fact that we see these figures of how little finance is actually going into this hugely promising sector seems madness, really.
Yes. So next ECOFIN and next Eurogroup will take place next week in Brussels, and I think the major topic will be financing the military expenditures. But I will come back to what I said at the beginning. That doesn't prevent us from also tackling the issue of gender equality. And in our action plan, implementing the recommendations given by the Women in Finance chapter, we have outlined mentoring, so accompanying young women to become the leaders, the next generation leaders. We have also taken into account the fact that we need to move more private capital for young women who are entrepreneurs. Then we have also to bring them to the decision-making process and to put them in the boards of directors. For example, in every state-owned company in Luxembourg, we tackle the 40% of women in that board of directors. In elections, we have also, let's say, at least 40% of women taking part in every list, and that is supported also by the government. And of course, we can share, as in other fields, the goals we fix, and the goal is to achieve a better gender equality in Luxembourg. We can also share the tools going from investment funds through gender bonds, and of course, we can also share the whole ecosystem we have in Luxembourg accompanying our banking and finance sector. And as a Minister of Finance, I kept my electoral promises, and we introduced a very favorable tax matter which applies as from the 1st of January here in Luxembourg. That means that the first 400,000 euros in income for expatriates are exempted from taxation up to 50%. And that brings a lot of talents to Luxembourg, and of course also women, which are talents, and they want to work here in our banking and finance center, and also in new technologies like the fintech.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye and see whether we can't just get that on the agenda. Maybe not next week, but the month after. President, we heard from Rania Al-Mashat there, and she gave us actually, I think it was 6 or 7 points there. I'm going to ask you a mean question, which is kind of what, if we have to choose one or maybe 2 of those, to actually accelerate action, because I'm going back to this theme of the International Women's Day. What do you think we can do? I mean, there was a lot of talk earlier about low-hanging fruit as well. What can we do quickly? We want, of course, lots of things to happen, but what can we do more easily and quickly to make this happen faster?
Well, I think there are 2 things, and I have to say, throughout life, I have my view on this has evolved, and I think that regulation plays a role when it comes to having women representation in companies. Saying, well, you need to have a 40% target. I think that really fixates and gives a sense and creates the right incentive so that companies do think about this and do realize. And once this is achieved and there's a percentage of women, then it's quite natural. Then the organizations change and it becomes more natural. But with lower percentages, it's very easy to go back. And I don't think we can afford to go back. So that's one very important element. And then the second important feature that will determine the future is education. Education. And I am concerned because there is pushback, and younger generations, we see there is a divide between the views of men and the views of women when it comes to many elements that have to do with the social agenda. And I think it's very important that our education systems continue to foster these values, the value of inclusion, gender equality, which are European values that we should really be proud of. And here, if I may, I'm going to do something a bit, but can I ask everybody a round of applause for the men that are engaged with this agenda? Yes. You, Minister, but also all the men in the room. Because frankly, as I said in my first phrase, I think, this is not an important matter for 50% of the population. This is an important matter for 100% of the population. And we need all the hands and all the brains and all the mouths, to pursue this agenda. We need to work, men and women, hand in hand, because this is not only the right, but also the smart thing to do for us and for future generations.
Thank you so much. Minister, do you want to say something, or
One word.
Yes, okay, go for it.
Listen, I think Nadia is leading by example. We have in 3 very important financial institutions are led by women. We have Ms. Georgieva at the IMF. We have Nadia at the EIB, and the European Central Bank is also led by a woman. So we have to show this, and that women can lead such important financial institutions, Ms. Lagarde, Ms. Georgieva, and also Nadia. And I would say the other thing is to push young women, and also by education, and that they are aware that they can also seize these opportunities in order to become the next generation of Nadia, Christine Lagarde, and Ms. Georgieva.
Well, hear to that. Thank you so much, both of you, for what has been uplifting, but also very rich in terms of the solutions that we can go for. Because if we are going to push back, it's going to be with the solutions that work. So thank you very much, and happy International Women's Day to all of you, men and women alike. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President. Thank you, Minister Roth. Lovely to see you again. And also Shirin Wheeler, of course. Thank you very much for a wonderful session. I won't keep you long. I know there's another networking opportunity outside with various snacks and drinks. So I hope you all enjoy that, take advantage of, for some of you, your last evening here in Luxembourg. For some of us, we remain here in Luxembourg. And with that, I just want to say, have a wonderful time, but please be here tomorrow for 9 a.m. Thank you very much.